Hello, you're watching Black Comics Universe. I am your host, Imani Latif. This program is brought to you by Peep Game Comics um, in conjunction with The Experience. Please help us out by hitting share and giving us a like and a follow. Then make sure to tune in for our original programming 7 days a week. Black Comics Universe streams every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on all DSPs. That includes Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And of course, as always, stay tuned afterwards for Miss Jen's Minute to Skim It. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. I am joined by my guest tonight by Hannibal Tabu. He is a comic book writer, comic book critic, comic book scholar. We're going to try to cover all the bases. I think you're a DJ too, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm trying to cover as many bases, and you'll see all of his influences in his work. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. I got to stop though. I got to stop and talk about production values in this joint with the flat fade in opening, and the studio is all
right.
Snacks in the green room.
Yeah.
Dude, y'all killing it.
Right. I got snacks. No, but and I had to thanks for reminding me, because I had to remind Kyle I like that very first intro music. He changed up some music, and so I'm actually kind of like it. I've been wanting to change up mine. So now that I know he can get his hands on some nice tunes, I'm gonna try to step up my little intro there too.
Yes, sir.
So how you been, man?
Man, you know, we still in this pandemic, so I'm staying home, staying safe. I got a young one, too young to be immunized, and my wife is, got some stuff going on. So I'm trying to be as safe as possible, to be around as long as possible. That's what I got.
Yeah. Yep. And it is still out there too. And but I will say this, like in this past year and a half, in spite of the pandemic, you've been extremely productive as of late. You have several books out.
Yes,
you have one with Second Sight Media, the Project Wildfire.
Yes, sir. November 24th in comic book stores.
Yep. And then Kyle, you can bring that up whenever you so choose. We have Project Wildfire. You also have MPLS. Yeah, there you go. You have MPLS. You co-wrote with Joseph Illich. Joe Illich. All right. He told us he didn't like to be called Joe, so I try to make sure I say Joseph.
I will remember that. I did not get that note.
We got that note. We were sending out some press, and he was like, "Oh, this Joseph." I said, "Oh, right, Joseph Illich." Joseph Illich.
Okay,
it's Joseph, right? With Joseph Illich, and I really like the artwork you've been putting out for False Flag.
Oh my God! This dude I found, bro. DeMar Douglas is an evil mastermind, dog.
Yeah, man, and I want to start there because I've always been familiar with Project Wildfire. I've been following that for a while. Was carrying it on Peep Game Comics, so I'm familiar with that story. But now I'm starting to see a theme, right?
Okay.
And maybe you could explain this, because when I saw False Flag, I was like, man, that's got like a real intense G.I. Joe vibes to it. And then I started backtracking. I started thinking about Project Wildfire. It comes off like a typical Superman or like Invincibles type of storyline, but then it also too has ties to military. So with the Project Wildfire in the title, and you also launched. Now, see, I've been following you for a while, so there's also been the operative network that you were a part of, and that's been like at least I've been following that for at least 8 years or so. Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah. So, but it's like now I'm starting to see all these military ties in your storytelling, and I was wondering, like, along with introducing yourself and what you do, can you explain those ties to your stories?
Absolutely. Well, for me, I'm a classically trained writer. I have a degree in creative writing from USC. And I, have been writing stories since I was 8. When I was 8, I had 220 pages of college rule notebook paper that I decided to write a novel in, it's terrible. It's the worst thing in the entire world. I have to destroy it before I die so it can never, ever see the light of day. But anyway, so yeah, I've just always had this drive to tell stories, to take the energy of the world and refract it through the prism of my own experience. And with what you're saying with, okay, I'll start here. The activist and writer Haki Madhubuti said that every action of an oppressed people is political. So whether you want to be or not, you are making a statement about what's going on with your life and what's happening with you. So through that lens, I went to high school in Washington State, which was very close to McChord Air Force Base and Fort Lewis Army Base. And I got to see the real kind of grinder pipeline to put people into the military fast, get them in fast, whatever it takes, and the sort of effect that it can have on a whole community in that regard.
Oh, wow.
Then as I got older, I started to research more things. I started to see the effect of this stratification through everything. For example, there was more than $1 trillion spent in Afghanistan, but we can't find $200 million to clean up the water in Flint, Michigan.
Right.
These are questions of priorities. These are questions of saying what is important and what is not important. That I dated this one sister who was a teacher who had to buy her own supplies to give people, what's the name, poster boards and art supplies when she's working with them in class. But then, I turn around and the police have got tanks and military vehicles. I'm like, okay, so we saying what's really important to us.
Right.
That all reflects through the work. I don't want to be didactic. I don't want to say, but I want to come in with the work in a real perspective. One of my activist friends told me that the reason why a lot of stories from rich people don't really reflect the breadth of everybody's experience is because they don't have to go everywhere. They're only in their bubble. Whereas Black people, look at Ralph Ellison. He went from the richest people's house all the way down to the poorest people's place. He saw the spectrum of life experience. And through that kind of vision, I present things like False Flag, which takes wrestling and G.I. Joe, two things I paid a lot of attention to growing up in Memphis, and says, wait a minute, this is all a scam. This is all an elaborate scam to get this money. And, Project Wildfire is the machinations of people who do not care about people trying to create a hero for their own purposes. I might have said too much there. But anyway, well, it's fine. So there's a lot of things going on in these stories that reflect things happening in real life. But I do it through a lens of real characters who have real issues and really, real likes and dislikes, things that you can relate to with them. And of course, the thing that gets most people in the door, humongous amounts of property damage, which, there we are.
Which I definitely a part of in Project Wildfire. There's like plenty of destruction and things like that. No, but and then now as far as the interesting thing about Wildfire is that you introduced that first at you and Quinn McGowan introduced that book first as independently, did you not, I think it was printed with, did you print it with 133 Art? I believe you did.
Yeah, he did the printing.
Originally. And then I was, doing some digital distribution, but
and
you stepping out. Yeah. I'm always, I'm ready. But I find it really interesting about this next step that you guys took with Second Sight. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we are constantly you've been out here for years, and like we've been a part of these conversations about being independent, remaining independent, the profit margins and all this kind of stuff to pay and all these things. And it never occurred to me. And so when I first came into this, and the vast majority of us sort of like totally dismissed the direct market, right? It's sort of like we have been preparing ourselves to basically doing it on our own. We got all these amazing tools, to do it digitally or do it print on demand and all this kind of stuff. So I promise you, I totally dismissed the idea of ever stepping into the direct market. But I have to admit, the more conversations I had with Marcus, COO of Second Sight,
he's a genius.
Dude, I I thank Kyle all the time for introducing me, but now I'm looking at it like, okay, there's a second tier here that I think indies might be missing. And I was wondering if you could speak to that more eloquently than I can.
Absolutely. There's an unfortunate reality for many of us who grow up in Western societies to think in what are called binary thought patterns, either or. I am independent or I am big time. I am this or I'm that. Whereas people of color around the world have always believed in a both and. That you can drive in all of the lanes. You have the real ability to do that. So with the deal with Second Sight, the first and most important thing to know, Second Sight is a Black-owned organization.
Yes.
Black-owned, Black-operated organization. And again, as Haki Matabuti said, that's a political statement intentionally. There's a lot of publishers I could have gone with. There's a lot of friends I have in publishing that I could have been like, hey, let's do this. Let's get in the direct market. But I was like, nah, when I do this, it's going to come out from Black creators on a Black-owned publisher in a way that is going to best state the politics that we feel, that Quinn and I feel. So that was very important to us. As well, Quinn and I are from Memphis. These are some brothers from Mississippi. We all some Bama dudes that trying to, make this right in a real hustler kind of way. So that factors in as well. When we want to do our independent books, which we still do, like I said, I would hope that when on November 24th, when people go to comic book stores, that they'll also be able to go to Peep Game and pick up Project Wildfire #1 there as well. So while still doing that, while doing this both and sort of idea, we want to be able to say, if a kid walks into a comic book store and sees something, that they should be able to do something. Now, kids don't get to walk into comic book stores very much, especially in a pandemic, but I want to make sure that there are choices there. That, in the same way when I was at a 7-Eleven and saw Tyrock on a spinner rack in the 80s, and people in comics hate Tyrock. I love Tyrock because when nobody else was there, Tyrock said, "You're making it to the future, pal. You're going to make it." And I was like, dog, that's all you need to tell me. Let's go do this. Right. So with all of that in mind, Second Sight gives us another tool in the tool belt that if we restrict, a lot of times we think we have to restrict ourselves, partially because, we have full-time jobs. We're busy. We have lives. We have stuff going on. Right. But, if we can figure a way to work together and collectively work together. And that's really what Marcus came to me with. Marcus was like, we're building an infrastructure so you can do the thing that you do, which is be creative. You don't have to think about, how am I going to fill out this paperwork? How am I going to get this order form? How am I going to do this? You don't have to worry about that. We got that. And to do so in a way that was super equitable, we didn't have to give up any ownership of the property. We didn't have to give up any of the specific rights. He's publishing the book. Second Sight is publishing the book through comic book stores. And doing so is a way that, one, they can help and get more product in the field that especially matches their politics as well. And that, as they say, a rising tide raises all boats. So everybody's going to get a piece of this. Everybody's going to get something right. And I hope to spirit that when people go into comic book stores and they see Project Wildfire and they see this is a dude who likes to have him a sandwich and holler at a girl named Latricia. And, this is a dude that
Right. Yeah.
So I hope that they can appreciate that sort of spirit coming through.
And that's the character right there on your T-shirt too.
Yes, sir.
Project Wildfire.
The shirt. I think the shirt's available on the site. I think. I can't remember.
Yes, sir. All right. Where do I want to go to next? Oh, MPLS. What? Can you walk me through that book?
Oh, sure. Okay, so oh God, this was before the pandemic. This is so many years ago. It's hard to remember. I got a call out of the blue from this editor named Fabrice Sapolsky, who was at Humanoids. And Fabrice, he's this French dude who is super cool. He knows everything you could possibly know about like stuff that people in Minneapolis don't know. This dude knows. So he calls me in and he's like, "Okay, I need you to sign this NDA." I'm like, "That's weird, but sure, whatever. All right, sign the NDA." And he's like, "All right, we got this plan. We're going to launch a line of superhero books from Humanoids. It's going to revolutionize publishing. We're going to do all these things different." I'm like, "Okay, word. That sounds interesting." He's like, "Does it? Okay, great. Forget about all that. None of that's important." I'm like, "What? What do you mean? You just got me all built up for that." Right. He's like, "What I want you for, because I know you worked at Rap Pages. I know you worked at The Source. I know you worked at MTV. I want you to write this book about the early 1980s in Minneapolis, about when Prince was coming to prominence." I was like, Oh, I see where you're going. All right, I can do that. Cool. And we did a scary amount of research, just a scary amount of research. I hired this one sister who lives in Minneapolis to drive around and take photos for me to make sure I would be able to get very specific elements of the life there. I found a lot of pictures from, back when First Avenue, the club that everybody knows from Purple Rain. I found pictures from when it was Sam's. And I was able to now, using Google Maps, you can go inside the club and go down into the dressing rooms where Prince and Morris was and get pictures of it. I'm like, okay, I'm screenshotting like crazy. And we were trying to capture this experience of what was happening there, while on one side lauding the brilliance of Prince and the groundbreaking business that he did, but also accepting the problematic challenges that he had in regards to colorism, in terms of really kind of anti-competitive business practices in sorts of ways that were not so cool. I encapsulated all this in the character of Teresa Booker, who's based on this woman that I used to work with at Image Magazine. This real brilliant, dark-skinned sister that was very used to people not paying attention to her. So I took Teresa and I gave her this drive to become a star, to be seen, which many of us as Black people, especially going back to the Ralph Ellison, have this desperate desire to be seen. I then, started crafting other characters. Ellis Booker, who is based on this dude I went to junior high with. He was 6'3" in 8th grade. That's how big this dude was. So, and, so I start to craft these characters. The process comes along. The outline comes along. Humanoid brings in Joseph to work on things because he's got much more experience than I do. We helped craft the story. This was a big 100 and some odd page story. So we craft it together. We get the product to market, and people seem to like it. It's on its second printing now, and it's going very well. And yeah, it was a big labor of love. But it's funny to me because I spent the money they paid me so long ago that it's like every time I'm like, oh, I remember this project. Right.
And that's the sad part. You make that money and then you feel sad to see it go, but man, it's got to go.
Yeah. That money helped my family travel to Ghana, so yeah, I was very happy for it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Now the other thing that I know you for is being a comic book critic, right? And like I said, I want to take up, the second part of this to talk about basically comics in general, because you guys, I'm not sure if you guys still doing your weekly Clubhouse?
Yeah, we're still doing the Clubhouse, and we're putting that. I'm working with Dr. Stanford Carpenter, who's a well-known comics anthropologist, also a brother. Again, keeping it real. And then we do a reviews discussion on Clubhouse, which we then now started to put on YouTube, which I had to learn iMovie to do that, so that's fun. And then, like I said, you got to use all the weapons that you can get. I'm on Bleeding Cool with reviews, and I'm also on the iHeartRadio podcast Nerdorama with Mo and Tawala, 2 more Black people. So, I'm just trying to make sure the message gets out and that the word gets out in every possible way I can.
And I'm enjoying this time right now. A lot of people that I've interviewed, I've been following for the last 10 years or so. And I'm noticing that it's almost as if that 10,000 hour rule is manifesting itself now.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing indies, I'm seeing people getting options for movies and stuff like that. I'm seeing, people making moves like you all are doing, stepping into the direct market or signing with publishers, and I'm really enjoying this time because I can see that whole idea of the, closing the circle, so to speak.
Yes.
Meeting someone like Marcus as far as, being in a direct market, but also having me in the digital space, but also having Jason Reeves and 133 Art in the printing and distribution space. And it's starting to move. And I tend to look at this I tend to look at what's going on in the independent comic book industry on a broader scale. I'm always now I can look at the broader issues and I see hope that, okay, no, we can do this because I've seen it done here. So it's not just about, reading quote unquote funny books, so to speak. What is it about, as a storyteller, what is it about comics that draws you, aside from growing up around it? But I enjoy the medium personally. I'm not just a fanboy, you know what I mean? So what is it about the comic book medium itself that draws you to it?
Well, I've said this many times that people who make comics, it's not a job, it's a calling, because to do it really, it's an uphill climb, even for the most successful people at it. It's hard for them. However, comics offers a freedom in terms of the production that cannot be matched. People talk about, in animation, I can just blow up a whole planet if I feel like it. I'm like, yeah, you do, but it's going to take you from the time you write it 8 months to write it, to send it to the studio and get it, yada, yada, yada. Comics gives you a more immediate, more visceral reaction in that regard. And the feel of turning a page to see, oh my God, Darkseid had the Daxamites carve his head into the shape of their planet. Oh my God, oh my God. Those sorts of shocks are almost unique to the art form. So that's first of all. Second of all, from my standpoint, someone noted that comics are the modern myths. That the same way that people, thousands of years ago talked about Hercules, now they talk about Superman, or they talk about Captain America. These are the myths that form the behaviors, the morals, the values that people have. So in the same way, if people want to believe that somebody, a white space alien lands in white Kansas and develops these really good family values, then they should see that people who grow up in strong families in the South, with the support of extended relatives and big mamas and neighborhood people who take care of them, can also develop these strong family values of good, of what's right, of going out to take care of other people. So these myths that are currently being told about Mike Brown, about Trayvon Martin, about whoever else, are the myths that we're being pushed. I want to push different myths. I want to give us different myths. And frankly, I don't trust certain parties to go do that for me. So that's part of the draw to create these stories. Likewise, I'm not gonna lie, I get a lot of personal therapeutic value out of saying, and in this one, I'm gonna knock down that entire building that I've been seeing. Because these edifices of capitalism, these structures that stand to maintain an inequitable status quo, are offensive to me. And, I obviously don't have a wrecking ball in real life. I obviously don't have telekinesis in real life. So you do what you can to get through what you got to get through.
On that point, as far as modern myths, I did a TED talk not too long ago. Well, first I was thinking about the whole new Matrix trailer, and I was thinking about the franchise in and of itself, and it occurred to me that the reality is that first Matrix, I honestly think it shifted the way people look at a lot of different things. Ever since that movie, at least I know for myself personally, it's on my personal timeline. Like, I know where I was when I saw that first movie. And I know the impact that it had. It's like it changed my worldview, right? And it might sound odd or nerdy in and of itself, but it really had an actual impact on me personally. And I know for a fact that it had a lot of impact on a lot of other people. Like it became a part of the lexicon and stuff like that. And then also, you fast forward several decades, and then you get to Black Panther, and for our culture, that was another watershed moment. Like, I know for a fact, it's like Black Panther is right up there actually with the inauguration of Barack Obama. It's like it had similar impact on, at least not just on me, but my kids, right? And so, of course, I'm always looking for what's going to be the next thing, right? And I think I picked the right person to ask this question. I've been speculating, for instance, that I think the introduction of Storm into the MCU will be the next thing. Like if they do it right, it could possibly be the next watershed moment, but I'm not sure with the passing of Chadwick. I'm not sure what direction they'll take, but I wanted to see what you think about what could possibly be that next thing.
Well, based on my understanding of Marvel's current slate, looking at the dates they've put out and what they have going on for Phase 4, the introduction of Storm in what we would call the right way doesn't seem to fit the plan. We have a lot of stuff going on with Jonathan Majors. He's going to be affecting lots of movies in and out in lots of different ways with the events of Loki and with what I'm certain will be the effects of What If. Because if you think we've seen the last of some of these characters, you're probably wrong.
Right.
So I don't really know if Phase 4, in the same way that early parts of Phase 1 did have the time to do this. Now, if they get deep into 2025, 2026, dates that haven't been announced yet, I don't know. But historically, Storm has been an ensemble player. She's never taken the lead in almost anything. I mean, comics, television, whatever. Even when she had the white outfit on the animated thing, she was still like, no, you're still off on the side. We still got to focus on Wolverine. What you hollering about? So I would love to say Storm was going to be it, but history has told me that it will not be. Likewise, history has told me, like with Obama, like with the Black Panther movie, whatever comes will be hard to see for anybody. Even the people, what's the name? The brother Winston Duke talked about when he was filming Black Panther. He was like, this felt so good that we couldn't believe it was happening, but we had no idea. Even while they were making this literal modern classic, they did not recognize the greatness of the impact of what they were doing until they got out there. And like one of my friends is this artist named Nicholas Smith, and he saw a picture of Chadwick with this little boy with a Panther mask doing this, always right over left, and he turned that into a mural that was at Disney California Adventure for a long time. They didn't see how this would impact. They didn't see how people would take it, how grandmamas would be going to the theater 3-4 times to go see this. Church groups going 3-4 times to see this. Talking about some African spirituality. In our culture, death is not the end. That's not it. So it's hard to figure out what literally is going to be the next thing. I do know that there's definitely no shortage of contenders. That I know Michael B. Jordan wants to be that. He's got a Val Zod story going on that's going to be the Black Superman. And he has an understanding of both the impact of images, and he also has a decent amount of money behind it. And now that we've seen Lois and Clark, we see how to do a Superman on a decent budget and still be really impressive. Right. Which are effects that they wish they had on Supergirl, but whatever, we can't get to that. They did Supergirl dirty on them effects, dude. They did on the budget. Man. I mean, the ideas were there, but they were like, nah, we can't pull it together. So still a fun show, still a great show. Lots of Black people on that show. So it's difficult to say what will be the next thing. What I do know is whenever the next thing is, it will be a shock to most of the country. In the same way that $1 billion in box office revenues in 27 days was a shock to most of the country. In a way that we're still hearing people, cursing out a president who's not even in office for stuff that he didn't even do. So what is the line? Hard to see the future is always in motion. But we will have to continue to look at the trends and follow the living force and hope to see if we can ride the wave.
All right. I picked this up from you. I'm gonna reset the room there, Hannibal Tabu. I'm gonna reset the room. You are watching Black Comics Universe presented by Peep Game Comics exclusively here on The Experience. Please help us out by hitting share and giving us a like and follow. Then make sure to tune in for our original programming 7 days a week. The Black Comics Universe streams every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on all DSPs, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please, yes, follow us, like us, share us, all that jazz. All right, back to my conversation with Hannibal Tabu, comic book critic and scholar. So to piggyback on what you're saying as far as following the trends, I've always share with folks that, especially people that are coming into this through the prism of the Black Panther or through watching Black Panther, and then they come to me, it's like, oh, tell me more about comics and all this kind of stuff. Um, and I'm looking at it like I'm sorry, I had to laugh. Kyle was Kyle was suggesting Jamie Foxx as Spawn. My producer Kyle is throwing his 2 cents, and Hannibal said no. But yeah,
with
he
all due
probably
respect. I mean, I
yeah,
love
you know,
Jamie.
all due
Jamie
respect,
is a wonderful human being, but
he'll probably he deserves a moment. But it's like, yes, it's hard to see what that next moment is going to be. But I will say, I've always shared with folks that this moment, the Black Panther moment, was about 10 years in the making, or about 5 or 6 years in the making before it happened. And if you were following the current of what was going on in the indie community, you would see that, okay, this is going to be a huge thing, because if you look at, if you were following what was happening in the indies, and if they had, millions of dollars, to throw at their ideas, we will be having moments like this all the time, right? And it's like, it was like, soon after, Black Panther, there was, Sony came out with, Miles Morales as far as Into the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. So we know it's possible, and that's why I'm really paying it now. If I wasn't paying attention before, I'm definitely paying attention now. It's like, so yeah, I'm picking up, and I'm constantly telling folks to pick up Project Wildfire, pick up Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, now pick up Day Black, now pick up these books. Pick up the Antagonist. I mean, he basically wrote that book. He wrote the book, and he already cast everybody. He gave all his character designs based on people like Michael B. Jordan and stuff like that. So, like, get these books now, because it's a good chance that any one of these moments might be the one, right? So if nothing else, yes, you're right as far as there's no way to know, but I would definitely say, if you would like to get some idea, I would definitely be following, what we've been doing in the independent market, as far as so, like, for instance, I knew that, of course, Lovecraft Country was a hit, because everything John Jennings does is a hit. It's like direct people, we've been right. It's a direct lineage to all this stuff. So it's like, if so I know that Farmhand is going to be bananas. I could say that right now. I've been telling folks that that's probably that could possibly be the next Walking Dead. So yeah, if you know what to look for, you can make some fairly good not necessarily strong predictions, but some honest opinions about what could be the next hot thing. What are you geeking out over lately, as far as what you've been reading? Indie or big two, whichever one you like to.
I'll talk about that but one thing that you said reminded me. I used to do music journalism, and we learned that through the history of music, it's the same thing. The things start in the underground, then they bubble up to the mainstream. That you get Chuck Berry playing these Chitlin Circuit gigs, and then you get Elvis Presley doing the same thing for bigger audiences. You get the underground hip hop vibes and of Volume 10, and then you get Ice Cube doing the same delivery on a platinum record. All these are historical things. So yeah, you're right. When I see the Antagonist, when I see Project Wildfire, when I see Is None of the Were Spider, things like that, I'm like, this is the direction of the new things, because a lot of the Afrofuturism that came from Black Panther was talked about in a panel I did with John Jennings and out at Loyola Marymount several years ago. So totally, you're absolutely right there. As for what I'm into right now, Jeff Thorne is writing the Green Lantern book at DC, the main Green Lantern book, and he has no rules. He's like flipping over every possible table. Every sacred cow has been slaughtered. There's nothing left to chance, and it's really, really doing some new things that I enjoy. So that's something I love. That followed up the amazing work N.K. Jemisin did on the Far Sector book. Which, I mean, just invented a whole new type of lantern specifically for us. For us. And I was like, fam, what are you doing? What are you doing, sis? Come on. So there was that. That was amazing. I'm also, like I said, I read the first 3 issues of The Antagonist, which is brilliant. It is brilliant. Some people are going to be mad Don't get me wrong. He did spell supervillains wrong on every color. It's spelled wrong on every cover rather. There's a point where a kid scientist is talking about, he's like, give me the vial, and it should say VIAL, it says VILE. These are frustrating things, unforced errors, but that doesn't change the meaning of the book being really good. And the core story of this retired supervillain family is just really compelling. I want this on television.
Yes.
So I'm really geeking out about that. I'm also really enjoying some web comics. There's a book called Lavender Jack on Webtoons that I'm really vibing on. Lavender Jack is this LGBTQ person of color who's rich in this kind of alternate historical reality. It's just really a deep story, and it's fun. It's super, super fun. Likewise, there's another Webtoons I'm really reading that I enjoy called The Croaking, that is about basically a race of people who all have wings. They're like avian people, like Angel from the X-Men, but everybody's that way. And, but even in that, there's a race and class structure. The crows, the darker birds, are discriminated against constantly, and form gangs called murders, and it's a whole. It's a really well thought out idea that develops through this story and is shown through this relationship between two people who should not be friends, but ultimately come to care for each other very deeply. And I really enjoy that. So those are vibing. This is a really great time where back when I worked at Rap Pages, we got 600 records a year. There were 600 rap records a year, and about 20 of them were amazing. Now there's 60,000 records a year, and about 2,000 of them are amazing. The percentage is the same. You just have to go through a lot more to get to them. Comics are the same way. There's a lot of volume that comes out. There's a lot of crossovers. There's a lot of blah, blah. And for retailers, this is hard, especially because while they may want to carry Project Wildfire, they need to carry an extra set of Wolverine books because they know they don't have to work that hard to sell it.
Right.
And I get that. I totally understand. That makes it harder for indies, but that's why I said with the both and perspective, we say, all right, cool. We respect that you can't do this from your business needs. Why don't you holler at me on Peep Game? Why don't you get this book this way, and we'll do this business some other way. That kind of flexibility is the only way that we can survive, in the same way that, very poor people in Afghanistan have been fighting off billion-dollar regimes for centuries.
No. I love that point because I have just gotten back into collecting comics. I've been picking up most of my books digitally, but so that's why I introduced Peep Game Comics, as far as because the problem I was trying to solve was that the idea was that I wanted to be able to support a Black comic book creator once a week. The typical 52 weeks out of the year that I buy comics, I wanted to buy at least one Black comic book. I came across Brandon Easton's blog post, which is now Holy Grail. Basically, this was about 10 years ago when he introduced it, saying, "Oh, you want to support Black comics? This is the list of Black comics you should be following." So I went through that list and trying to get to all those people and all this kind of stuff. But that definitely became what Peep Game is that, being able to find those books, being able to find them in stores though too now, working with people like Marcus at Second Sight, printing those books and distributing those books, like, through BSC Distro with Jason Reeves. Again, it's just, I love the way everything is coming together. As far as those trends, but at the same time, it's like, but now I'm picking up print books. I pick up graphic novels. You see over my shoulder. I'm picking up.
See that Panther book, love it.
Yeah. Black Panther, David Walker. But also and that's another one of those things. It's like, it is so weird to see all this stuff. It's like, that's illustrated by Kwame, who was following years ago, on Twitter and stuff like that. I just love to see everybody sort of like coming into this, like everybody's leveling up. We're all, that whole idea of, which I was always skeptical of, that whole idea of rising tide pulls up all shit. I've always thought that was BS because they said that about Black Panther. And it's like all of a sudden it's like I didn't see no sales. It's like but I will say that it does seem as if, for instance, as David Walker becomes more successful and visible, it's like I am personally becoming more visible. The independents I'm working with are becoming more visible. So it's like the correlation is there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure about it's like whether or not it's causation, but definitely the correlations are pretty clear for sure.
Well, the water don't care whether you believe it or not. It's going to raise the boat.
Right.
And now it's funny you mentioned that because I was on the phone with Kevin Grievous, and he's after Black Panther came out, he's like, his voice is super deep. Man, I'm getting all these calls now and all these meetings. And literally while I was on the phone with him, that's when I got the call from Fabrice Cebulski from MPLS Sound.
Yeah,
there was a corona effect. There was a financial benefit for many, many Black creators out of that. And that did raise Chadwick raised us all in a lot of ways. So, we can't deny the work that he and Ryan and the other brother who did the script did that was intended for the culture, that helped the culture and had effects that even they could not plan. That makes Peep Game stronger, that makes Black Comics Universe stronger, that makes Project Wildfire stronger. And I'm all in for that. Like the new Static and Icon books, great bananas. Oh my God, the new Static and Icon books are bananas. So that comes from okay, there's this pent up demand. Kevin Feige said 6 years before Black Panther, he was like, Wakanda's too unrealistic to make. We can't put that together. While he knew that his development staff was working on it. He knew that. He gasped at us. So we would be like, oh, how dare you? So when it comes out, there's this pent up desire for it. And people go hard in the paint for it.
No, and it's so weird. It's like, that's another one of those watershed moments that I've been following for a long time is Milestone coming back. Because I promise you, I was online anxiously with bated breath trying to figure out what they were going to do when they did was it 25th anniversary panel at San Diego, right? When they first said, I know, right. And it's like, and I promise you, I launched Peep Game because I was afraid that they were going to come out and basically dump the whole Milestone catalog digitally. And I was sort of like, I will have to, marketing wise, I'll have to wade through all of that to get any attention. But of course, that didn't happen. So like Milestone didn't actually show up for years later. But I've been following the momentum of that. And but as much as I love Milestone, I'm just as amazed by what people were doing in the interim. It's like the amazing amount of work that, especially a lot of independent creators, but just creators in general. And so I'm, as much as I was excited about the Milestone universe and them coming back, sometimes I wonder if like, I'm sad to say, it's like, sometimes I still wish it's like, man, I still wish Dawood Anyabuele could have did, a cover of something, you know what I mean? It's like there's some names. It's like sometimes it's like when I see the big two do things, it's sort of like they still miss a few key things. You know what I mean? It's like okay, yeah, I get it, but it's like Anthony Piper should be a little bit a bigger name now. It's like there's always some things that they're missing. I don't know if you see it that way. It's like, I'm excited for but it's like, yeah, Vita, I like getting Vita and Nicholas on that book was smart because I'm going to ramble for a little bit on the Static thing. Only because on the Static in particular, because I will say this, I like the fact that they pulled back. They had a plan, just like, you know what I'm saying? Kyle Baker was supposed to be the original illustrator, I think writer too, on that book. And we saw some pages, we saw some illustrations, and this is not that book at all. I would love to see that book. I ain't gonna lie. I think that book probably would have been amazing just on the illustration alone. But That book is not here. I don't think, and I might not ever see the light of day because, and I honestly think I'm getting the impression that they had a really small window to get this new Static out. You know, I think they scrapped the original idea and they went with Vita and them to put together something new on the heels of another watershed moment as far as 2020, as far as the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. I think they totally revamped it. So it does feel, it's good. It does feel a tiny bit rushed. Like it's like, you know, but you know, I'm liking it. I'm fanning out on it. I want to leave the rest of the time for you to wax eloquent on it. What you think?
There are things that I know I can't say. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I bet.
I do believe that Vita and Nicholas were a fantastic choice for Static. I originally thought Icon was going to take a very different direction, and it surprised me in a big way, and I appreciate that. I do know that the times are different. For example, there's a reason why there's not a Blood Syndicate book right now. I get that. Right. There's a certain respectability politics and challenge in that regard, which is why, you know, they're building up Holocaust as a secondary, you know, a big bad in Static instead of, you know, a crucial part of the Blood Syndicate. I get that. There's a reason why there's not a zombie book right now. You know, everything is not for everybody. You have to focus on the core audience, and I respect that. When Reggie was at BET, he invited me because I was working at a newspaper. He invited me to a press event that he was doing. And
Reggie Hudlin we're talking about, right?
Yeah, Reggie Hudlin. And they were rolling out this whole line of things that BET was doing. And I walked up to him. I'm like, I see what you're doing. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I see that you've got 4 video shows, this church show, and a news show, but you're doing all these things. You're doing a bunch of stuff to basically pay the bills, and then you're trying to sneak in this politics stuff. And he says, oh my God, you're literally the first person to notice that. People who are working with me did not notice that. You're literally the first person to say that. And I'm like, I see you. So Reggie he plays the long game. He always has, he always will. So, you know, when they made this big announcement in San Diego with Jim Lee on stage and everything, they're like, oh, we're going to have Ken Lashley, and we're going to have, you know, Dave Walker, and we're going to do all these things, yada, yada. But production realities and I'm trying to step gingerly now, business realities may not have made some of those things feasible in the time that was possible. So while I agree, I would love to see Dawood doing a Static cover. I think that would be epic. When they're putting these things together, they're not selling, with all due respect, they're not selling this to Peep Game. They're not selling this to the Shrine of Black Madonna in Houston. They're not selling it to Esselwan in Los Angeles. They're selling it to white comic retailers. So they need to figure out how to sell these things to white comic retailers. That's the hard part about comics in a mainstream sense. You don't sell to people, you sell to retailers. So
true, right.
You have to
say that again. Say that again.
You don't sell to people, you sell to retailers. So, for example, I tell people this with Project Wildfire. If 4 people go into a shop and say, would you please set aside a copy of Project Wild for me? They might order 1 extra copy for the shelf, depending on the shop. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 7. It depends on the shop and their specific business. But unless they see an interest in a book that's not a Wolverine book or a Batman book or whatever, they don't have a motivation to get enough copies that it'll be waiting there for people if they come looking. So that's real talk. Like I said, I don't know why they wouldn't pick Ken Lashley, who himself has known how amazing he is to do literally anything and everything. There are business rationales behind it. Reggie never does anything without a reason and never anything without a profit line in mind. So while it may not be the decision we would make, it's the decision Reggie had to make for the business to make sure that everybody's going to be able to get paid at the end of the day. And I respect that. On the other hand, in my brain, that says, well, shoot, let me see if I can get Dawood to do a Project Wildfire variant cover for like number 4. That might be a thing. I can get that money. Because while, you know, Dawood may not make an impact on a lot of people in, you know, at Graham Cracker Comics in Chicago or at Midtown Comics in New York, you know, Dawood is going to make a big impact if you see it or if I see it, or, you know, it's like, oh my God. Or if you go to Comic Nerds of Color, which is one of the biggest Facebook groups that goes on. And that group, they're like, Dawood is doing, oh, we need to pre-order now. We need, you know, and that will shift towards a certain way. We're a niche audience, and that's not a bad thing. Lizzo made a lot of money being a niche casted person. NWA started out as a niche thing that then became hip for white people to enjoy or whatever. So do your thing in your lane in a hard way, but never feel like you're limited to the tools of that lane. That's my general philosophy.
That's a perfect example of how Dorothy's Jean with Spirit's Destiny did that. Gorgeous. She had a exclusive cover with Larry Stroman, which was off the hook. But that was smart. It's like, I think that was one of the smartest things I've seen an independent publisher or writer, creator do in a long time. But and just to know that Larry is willing to be, he definitely sees himself as a part of the Black comics community.
You want to know something funny? The
reason go ahead.
Why all of this exists is Larry Stroman.
Yeah.
Larry posted on Facebook one day, I wonder if people would be interested in collaborating with me. And of course, a bajillion people came out, including me. And somebody commented on my comment and says, well, if Larry doesn't want to work with you, I would like to. Could we talk about that? And that was Quinn McGowan.
Wow.
That's literally where it all started. So again, things that you do can have an impact you don't even recognize. Larry doesn't know that he helped make this Project Wildfire happen, but it's true.
No, that's perfect. I want to give the last few minutes to you, however you want to close it out, making sure that everybody can find you, HannibalTabu.com, theoperativenetwork.com, all social media platforms. I'll give the floor to you for the next 5 minutes or so.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So on social media, you can find me as @Hannibal, HANNIBALTABU. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, radiation from the sun, hieroglyphics, love notes from your crush in third grade, and everywhere you want to be. So it's HannibalTabu.com is my main site. You can find a whole bunch of story stuff at operative.net. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit quickly about False Flag. We have very intentionally cast people in some of these roles. Damien Poitier, the brother who played the first Thanos in the Avengers movie, is a character named Black Fury. Danny Fernandez, who was in Ralph Wrecks the Internet and has an upcoming show on HBO Max, is a character named Snakebird. My wife, Michelle Tabu, is going to be playing a role called Rock and Soul on this. These are intentional. This print story is not the last you're going to see of False Flag, and you should definitely keep your eye out next spring or next summer for a taste of more of these people in these roles and what's specifically going to be happening there. So that's one thing I'll say. Project Wildfire is available for pre-order now. We got about 2 weeks left on pre-orders before you won't be able to do so. If you go to operative.net and look in the store under Project Wildfire, you'll see that we have quotes from Gail Simone, who did Secret Six and Clean Room and Birds of Prey. Donnie Cates, who did King in Black and Thor. He said, and I quote, Project Wildfire looks dope. Cully Hamner, who designed Blue Beetle, who had the movie Red with Bruce Willis. He's got a quote there. We've also got David Walker, of course, a longtime friend of mine who gave some very great praise to the work. You know, it's not just me saying it's good. Lots of other people saying it's good. And if you call your comic book stores and ask them to set aside a copy for you, that increases the possibility that it'll be there for somebody else. So please do so. False Flag, Project Wildfire. I've got a book in stores right now from Wonderman Comics called Timecore, which is a time travel story. If you go to bit.ly/Timecore, there's a whole bunch of information about it, lots of links to buy it. It's a really fun time travel book. Please check that out. And we'll be coming out with Wonderman Comics just greenlit 400 pages worth of more miniseries of this new thing that we're doing called War Medicine, which is a half Native American, half Black shaman in 1866. And it's a supernatural Western. It's wild. The artist hasn't even finished the first series, and the publisher's like, we need to get so much more of this. So that's going to be coming to you in a big way in 2022 and onwards. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I appreciate people checking for my work. I appreciate the support of you, Imani, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak to people. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate you, and thank you for coming through on behalf of my friend Hannibal Tabu, my producer Kyle, who's in the background there, and the experience, the comic book shopping experience. I am Imani Latif, and thanks.